Hey everyone, in this first video we are going to go over our first assignment that we have for week 5, which is a discussion board called Organizing Sources. This is going to be due on Thursday night, and this is actually going to take a bit of time to do, so try not to leave it until Thursday night. So we can go look at it through the discussion list. And the first thing you'll notice for this Organizing Sources discussion board is it says, before beginning the assignment, please review the synthesis template found under the Week 5 content module. So I've already pulled up the content module. Let's go look at it. If you go to the Week 5 schedule, you can see the synthesis template. So I've made this template for you to help you organize your paper. This is going to be used for the final paper. You do not have to complete this actual text. You're not turning this in. This is just a way to organize your paper. I do recommend completing it because it'll make everything just a little bit easier. But let's look at the outline together. So in the outline, you can see that we basically have 4 parts to the research paper. So in our introduction, we're going to define the research problem. In our body section 1, we're going to answer the questions of what causes the problem, who's affected by the problem. In body section 2, it says what are the effects of the problem. So, what does the problem actually do? What are the bad things that happen? And then number 3 is going to be our solution section. We say, based on your research, how can we address the problem? What's the best way to work at it? So if you notice, you can see in the synthesis essay outline, we've got these like source 1, source 2. That doesn't necessarily mean the first source alphabetically from your annotated bibliography. It just means the first source that you're going to plug into the outline. So what you have to do for this assignment is you have to look at each of your sources and figure out which of these 4 parts of the paper do we need to put it into. So what I recommend is that you copy and paste textual evidence because you're going to have to use that in the paper. So if we get it done now, it makes it a little bit easier, but you actually don't need to use that textual evidence for the discussion board assignment. But as you can see, when you're writing a paper, the big things that you want to do are have your text evidence, your topic sentences, and your summaries of the main argument. We'll be working a little bit more with this outline sheet next week. So if you fill it out now, you're just saving yourself work in the future. But again, this isn't a grade. You never have to complete this and turn it in to me. So let's go back to the discussion board. So we already said we've got the 4 parts of the research paper that we're looking at. So defining causes, effects, and solutions. What you actually do in this discussion board is you go to your 8 sources and you want to put each one of these sources into one of these 4 sections that we've got defined right up here at the top. In your actual research paper, it's totally fine to use a source in more than one section, but for now, we're just trying to think about how are we going to organize this paper. So once you pick your first source, you got to answer this question: which section did you place the source in? So let's say we're going to put it in defining the research problem. How do you plan to use the source in this section? You might write a sentence or two where you say, like, in this source, they talk about, let's say I wanted to write about segregation in schools. Maybe you'd say something like, in this source, they define what in-school segregation is. So I want to use it for defining the problem. If you're curious, in-school segregation is when they separate like students by race into different classes. It's something that happens at schools around this area actually quite a bit. And then number 3, you want to say, why do you feel this source will work best in this section of the essay? Again, you want to write 1 or 2 sentences where you say something like, since it's giving me a definition, I want to introduce it at the beginning so my reader knows exactly what I'm talking about. So the actual writing on this portion of the discussion, this particular discussion board assignment, isn't that difficult, but it does take a little bit of time just to organize your sources in the way you want them organized. Once you've got everything written up the way that it actually looks on the page, you can see that here. All you got to do is put the source, the author, and the title. Like source 1 is this, and then you talk about which section you put the source in, how you plan to use it, and why do you feel it'll work well in that section. For these 1, 2, and 3, these aren't long descriptions. It's just helping us organize our essay. So you'll complete this discussion board by Thursday. My biggest hint when it comes to completing and organizing your sources, couple things you want to keep in mind. Number one, your introduction when you define the research problem, that's where you want to use definitions. For your body section 1, causing the problem, you want to show like where the problem happens, what are the other factors we have to consider. You want to think about the people who are affected, look at those sources. Source 3, you want to take your best sources that do a good job of showing like what are the consequences of this problem. And then the final section where you're giving your solution, that's where you really want to focus on your sources that are like more solution oriented. Some of you won't have like a problem that is solved, but maybe you learned something and you want the audience to apply what you've learned. Those are the sources that you'll put in this last section. So this is due Thursday night. If there are any questions, let me know, and I'll work with you this week to get those annotated bibliography grades done.